The following program is a Creative Magic Network production. Hey guys, December 3rd is the deadline to enter the contest to win Lance Secretan's powerful book on inspiring leadership, titled The Spark, the Flame, and the Torch. Inspire yourself, inspire others, inspire the world. And the best part, the book is in hardcover. That's right, hardcovers are hard to get these days. So if you haven't already, you can enter the contest by going to frederickbuy.com. That's Frederick with a C, buy.com, and enter your email in the pop-up that will appear at the top of your screen. Have a great episode.
You're listening to the Frederick Buy Show, where sky is the limit and space is the place. Here's your host, Frederick Buy.
Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome. Come on in, sit down, relax, put your earbuds on. Hey, welcome to the Frederick Buy Show, and this radio podcast is about unleashing your creativity. We talk to experts, we step into the unknown. It is an inspirational, magical, intuitive radio podcast as we chat with charismatic enigmas from around the globe. That's right. Musicians, singers, radio hosts, authors, business people, everything in between. I am Frederick Buy, the man of the hour, the man with the power. Too sweet to be sour, I'm funky like a monkey. Hey, I sting like a bee, produce sweet honey, and I am pretty. I am your favorite French Canucker. And today we have an interesting subject, one of my favorite actually. But right before we get into it though, I have a special announcement. We have a contest. That's right. Many of you listen to the Frederick Buy Show on the Creative Magic Network. And recently we had Lance Secretan on, and we've discussed his book, The Spark, the Flame, and the Torch, which I believe to be an amazing book, a must-read book for anyone looking to be an inspiring leader. There's a big difference between being a boss, a manager, an entrepreneur, to being an inspiring leader. And this is what the book explains so perfectly. I truly believe that it can inspire you to become not only a better leader, but a better human being, which is, I think it goes hand in hand. And, it will inspire you to live with passion also, instead of being a paycheck addict. And you may get the hardcover. Yes, the contest is for the hardcover. Hardcovers are hard to find these days. And you can get it for free through our contest. So just go to frederickbuy.com. That's Frederick with a C, buy.com, and enter your email in the pop-up at the top of your screen. The contest ends December 3rd. Go now, frederickbuy.com. All right. Once again, Allison, actually, I want to welcome you to the show, Allison. We have, I'm sorry, her name is Allison Carmen. She's the author of The Gift of Maybe. That's right. A book offering hope and possibility in the face of uncertainty. And, she works as a life coach and a business consultant and blogger. And you can find her at AllisonCarmen.com. That's ALLISONCARMEN.com. Welcome to the show, Allison.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So, as I mentioned right before we went on the air, I think the subject of uncertainty is a big subject. It scares a lot of people. It's something that, for all you artists and entrepreneurs out there, you face uncertainty every single day. And, what's going to happen with, and if you're in a situation where that you don't want to be in, a bad relationship, a bad job, oftentimes just the thought of jumping ship and just, breaking that relationship and being on your own or whatever scares the hell out of you. I know how you feel. But today we have a book that will help you on this. And yet we have the author of the book. And, listen, you have an interesting journey. You have an interesting story. Let's start at the beginning. Give us an idea here of your background a little bit.
Well, I was a really stressed out attorney living in the middle of Manhattan. And over time, I realized that I was addicted to certainty. I always wanted to know what was going to happen next in my life. And if I didn't know, I projected things were going to be bad or they weren't going to work out. And like you just said, a lot of us have this. A lot of us fear the unknown. And what we do to make ourselves feel better is we write stories what needs to happen for us to be okay. Some people say, I need this job until I retire, or I'm going to have this amount of money in the bank when I'm 50, or my child needs to go to this college for everything to work out. And these stories make us feel better. But life has uncertainty. So the minute you lose that job, or the minute you don't have the money, or the minute your child doesn't get into the college you expected, we spin out of control and we say life's not working out, and we worry and we have anguish and we have anxiety and we make ourselves sick. And that's how I lived my life. I was always worried. I was always projecting what this moment meant for the rest of my life. I was worried if I was going to lose my job. Would my husband leave me? Would there be another terrorist attack? And over a period of time, I had trouble sleeping. My immune system became compromised. And I did try all these alternative things like changing my diet and doing yoga. And these things helped. But the minute something uncertain happened in my life, I would spin out of control again. Until one day I heard this beautiful story. And it's a Taoist story. And it was about a farmer. And the farmer had a horse and it ran away. And his neighbor came by and said, you have the worst luck. And the farmer said, maybe. And the next day, the horse came back with 5 mares. And the neighbor came to the farmer and said, you have the best luck. And the farmer says, maybe. But the next day, the farmer's son is on the horse. He falls off and breaks his leg. And the neighbor comes by and says, you have the worst luck. And the farmer says, maybe. But then the next day, the army comes to take the farmer's son to war, and they can't take him because his leg is broken. And their neighbor comes by and says to the farmer, you have the best luck. And the farmer says, maybe. And in the Taoist tradition, that story means things are neither good or bad. They just change. But for me, when I heard that story, I actually felt a pop in my chest. Because in my life, I never realized that when something bad happened, well, then something good could happen after that, that there was this maybe, that within uncertainty, there was more than one possibility. I was always focused on the doom and gloom, on that one fear that things were going to go that one way. But with this idea of maybe, I started to see that maybe things could be different. Maybe what's happening could be good. Maybe things would get better. Maybe I could still be okay. Maybe my thoughts aren't true. And again, it sounds so simple, but this idea took me from this place where I was so afraid and so worried my life was not working out to this open place where uncertainty became my best friend, because it became the place where my life would change and I could achieve all my goals. And that's really how this whole philosophy developed, and how I live now with less fear and more openness and hope in the world of uncertainty.
I love how you talk about you're addicted. And, sometimes we think about addiction, drugs, alcohol, whatever, but when I read that, I'm addicted to certainty. I was, man, that's so many of us. That is so many of us. Okay. Because right now you're a blogger, you're a life coach, you're a consultant, you're an author, right? You're kind of doing your own thing. You're an entrepreneur, basically.
Yes.
Growing up, what was the mindset of the adults around you when it came to a career in entrepreneurship? Or, you're kind of an artist too. If you're, an author, but, what was the mindset? Were your parents addicted to certainty too? Or, did they dread those types of careers? Because oftentimes our parents will say you have to become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. Otherwise you're going to be a screw up in life. Yeah. And, what was the mindset?
That's such an interesting question that you just asked me, because my father was an entrepreneur, but he went into his father's business. So he was an entrepreneur with a lot of regret. Although I saw he was in his own business, it wasn't something he was happy about. And again, even if you have a parent that is an entrepreneur, it's really the communication that's going on. And there was a lot of fear and worry in my house. It was a lot of projections. We were always moving someplace else. Things were always bad. But the good thing about when I grew up, there was a lot of love. So I think that love sustains us, even through uncertainty. So it was a mix. It was a mixed bag. My house.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So now you went to college. Obviously, you became a lawyer. And then what drained you as a lawyer? What did and first of all, why did you choose this career, and what drained you?
When growing up, I probably picked it on some level because there was some certainty about it. There was.
I'm sorry. Do you hear the ring there?
I do, and I apologize. I think that the ring is coming from my computer.
Oh, okay, it's all right. Okay. I thought I was like, okay.
So my apologies. So yeah, I think that I picked it because there was something that was really certain about it. Mm-hmm. It made me feel like that there would be a way one day I would achieve enough and life would be certain. That I would achieve, and I knew I would make a living and I would have a good life. So it's a very clear goal. You know, you go to law school, you get a job, you practice law. It's very different from being an artist or a musician or an actor. It's a very different path. So that's probably one of the reasons. And another one of the reasons is that I was always into justice. I always wanted to right the wrongs. So for me, it seemed like the perfect combination. I was going to get my certainty and I was going to seek justice at the same time.
Right. And all right, once again, we're here with Allison Carmen, who works as an author, life coach, business consultant, and blogger. She's the author of The Gift of Maybe. Maybe, just maybe, things could be all right. A book offering hope and possibility in the face of the dreading uncertainty. You can find her at AllisonCarmen.com. All right, what was your family's reaction to quitting your job?
Well, that was a really interesting time because I was married and my parents had this vision that, you know, that I was going to practice law and have this great life. And
you had the perfect life. You're married.
Yeah. You're a lawyer. It all looked perfect. But the thing about it is, and I think that's where I really crack, where, I didn't tell you guys this in the beginning, but when I went to work my first day of being a lawyer, I got a job at a really large law firm. I was overlooking Central Park. I actually thought I've arrived. Today is the day where certainty is mine. And I don't have to worry anymore about all these things I always worried about. What's going to be? Will I have enough money? Will I lose my home? It's done. I have my path and it is here. The second day of work, my office mate walks into my office and says, Allison, did you hear they're firing half the first years? And I was a first year. And that day really changed everything for me because I had written that story so long that this job and this career were going to save me, that the minute it was threatened, that's when I realized I was never going to win this game. I was never going to find certainty. And that's where I really crashed. Because the thing is that, and that's, I think, where a lot of our anxiety lies, is that we're always looking for this certainty. Even though we know we're not going to attain it, we're always looking for it. And what happens is that we're always projecting. Because we need certainty, we're always defining what this moment means for tomorrow. And when we project the future, if you're worried and you're upset, the projection to the future it's a bottomless pit. It's the story that only causes worry and suffering because it has no bottom. You could write any story you want. And usually, unfortunately, we pick the worst story. Like we pick that the worst thing is going to happen and we forget that the unknown is not just a story of doom and gloom. The unknown is the place we want our life to change. Because if you think about it, if you're not happy today, your life has to change in the unknown. So really, the unknown is our best friends because that's where we're going to find new opportunities. That's where someone's going to buy our art. Someone's going to buy our book. We're going to get our first client for our new business. So we should really look towards it and say, hey, how can I learn to live here with more hope and possibility and embrace this idea because I do want a new life. I do want more success. So when I shifted in that area, not only did my stress and worry go away, but I actually found more opportunity because this idea of uncertainty and maybe that's where all possibilities lie. So the more open we are, the more likely we're going to find our way to success.
It sounds to me that you fell into the trap of, and hopefully I will say it the right way, you think you're going to get more things, but once you get those things, you realize, holy cow, now I have more to lose. And that, it's like you said, it's a bottomless pit. It's a vicious cycle because, okay, you don't have anything. Well, when I will have something, I will be good. But then you get there and it's like, holy cow, now I may fall. Like there's possibilities that I can keep going up, but now I have something to lose. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people have
that's how the paranoia starts sometimes.
Yes.
I think.
Well, a lot of people have that issue that they have built something in their life. But remember that I have something to lose is also the story of certainty.
Yeah.
Right? Because what they're saying, we're believing that whatever we built will have forever. And we forget all things change. And so that thing we're hanging on to is not permanent either. And although it might sound scary, if we could understand that piece, then we're really going to be opening ourselves up to all that's possible. Because, certainty makes us complacent. And that's the thing we don't realize. It's not true. There is no certainty in life, but it also forces us to stand still in a place that we think will never change. And that's where we get tripped up, because we think this thing we have will be there forever. And then when we lose it, we spin out of control. Life's not working out. Things are bad. But we're really hanging on to something that never really had a platform to begin with. And the real platform is the inner dialogue. And the real platform is the foundation that we form within ourselves. So, yes, we do hang on to things because we think we have something that will give us certainty. But really, we're just holding ourselves back from probably a more expansive, creative life. And if we're willing to see that we're holding on to something that's going to change anyhow, and within the unknown is hope and possibility, I find people are often more likely to make changes that really align more with their heart's desire and the things that they really want in their life.
Mm-hmm. Right. Couldn't say it better. Okay, there's this interesting story of the man on the roof of his house in your book. I thought that was interesting. It's all about linear thinking. And can you tell us that story?
Well, I love that story. I'm probably not going to, I always tell the story differently, but basically there's a man, and is this the one, did I tell this one? I think he was drowning, or was he on the roof? Yeah. I always tell it differently.
Yeah, it's kind of both. I mean, he's waiting to be rescued.
Yeah, I usually tell the story that there's a man and he's drowning. I know that I might have used a different version of it in the book, and somebody comes by in a boat, and they say, can we save you? He's like, no. He's like, I'm okay. God will save me. And then an air balloon comes by and says, you're drowning. Can we save you? He goes, no. He goes, God will save me. And then I think it was a water skier. Someone else came by in a different type of boat or whatever, and he comes by and says, can I help you? You're drowning. And he says, no, God will save me. And the man drowns. And he goes to heaven, and he meets God, and he said, God, he goes, I thought you'd save me. And he says, hey, he goes, I sent the boat, I sent the balloon, I sent the skier. Yeah. And that's what we do. We get so stuck on how things are supposed to be, on how we thought life would happen, that when it doesn't happen the way we thought, we act like it's game over. And I've seen entrepreneurs, I've seen people close their doors too early because
we're going to talk about that. Mm-hmm.
They didn't get the clients the way they thought they would get the client, or they didn't make enough money that they thought they would make. And we forget that life has maybe. So as you stand in this moment, maybe everything that's happening is the way it's supposed to be. And maybe you need to change your marketing plan, or maybe you need to change your finance plan, or maybe you just need more time. And that story you wrote that it was going to happen, you were going to launch your business in 3 months, and maybe it takes 6 months. So this idea of maybe, it allows us not to get stuck in that story of how things need to be for us to be okay. Because maybe we're still okay, or maybe something else is going to happen. So I find with entrepreneurs, this idea of maybe is so helpful, because it gives us a place to stand. Because I work with actors and artists and all these different people. And, it's a really, there are certain professions that everything has uncertainty in it, but there are certain professions I think that you feel it. You're more aware of it all the time. And entrepreneurs, artists, actors, they feel it all the time because they're always waiting for someone to come in and buy their art or give them a role, or we're waiting to build our business and get more recognition and make more profit. So they need to find a way to live in it. And if you think about it, uncertainty is really the most important relationship in all our lives, not just the entrepreneurs, because it's going to determine who we decide to love, who are we willing to love, will we change our life, will we, allow our child not to take that class and explore their art, their abilities in art. It will determine so much in our lives. And that's why maybe is such an amazing tool, because it allows people to hang out in the unknown without all the fear, because it gives them hope. It makes them say, okay, I can hang out here and not know, and maybe things will still work out. Or maybe it's okay, I don't know the answer, but maybe it's going to come to me anyhow. And it sounds so simple to practice, but this simple practice, again, takes you from the small little place where you're afraid of change to this open place where you see change as a place of hope and possibility. And for many people, that alone is a game changer.
Right. Once again, we're here with Allison Carmen. She works as an author, life coach, business consultant, and blogger. She's the author of The Gift of Maybe, a book offering hope and possibility in the face of uncertainty. And you can find her at AllisonCarmen.com. All right. Before continuing this conversation, guys, if you have a passion, something that fuels your curiosity, well, on top of getting fascinating interviews such as this one straight to your inbox, when you subscribe to our free Creative Magic community, you will get super cool exclusive gifts in return, such as the ebook Happiness Quotes by the ambassador of happiness herself, Maura Sweeney, one of our hosts here at the Creative Magic Network, and also an exclusive conversation with two of my favorite people, Alex Okoroji and the Blind Blogger, as we talk about the influence of friends and college education on our lives, the competitiveness in a crowded field, the importance of business and financial education in arts and entrepreneurship, and more. And also Alex has a special gift for you inside. I promise you will get inspired and entertained. Subscribe for free at frederickbuy.com. That's Frederick with the C, buy.com. Okay, you talk about artists and entrepreneurs and, for creative people, let's talk about money. Okay, because let's face it, that's the number one fear, okay? The stress over money is huge, especially for, artists. And I call them creative entrepreneurs because, they live off their art and, they want to live off their art. And sometimes they are reluctant to get a regular job, and become a side entrepreneur, or, would you advise them to have a job even if they don't want to? Because sometimes they feel that if they get a job, they won't be able to be immersed in their work, or, but they got to eat. They got to eat. Yeah. And what would you tell these people?
Okay. Well, that's a great question. And I guess because of my accounting background and my business background, I live in maybe, but I also see the practicality of business and money and what people need to do. And I think that there are certain people, they need to have a job. They do. But what we can do is we can get a job that works for our other passion. We can get a job that supports us. Now, I work with a lot of people. Some people are trying to pursue acting and singing. And the best job that they could have that works into their life is working in a restaurant. And it just works for them. And they need money to live. They need rent. There's a quality of life that we need to maintain for our own well-being. Now, there's some people that don't need that they could, I know I have some clients in New York that are able to sell their art at certain fairs on the weekends. So that's how they supplement it. It's not, totally the type of art that they want to get into a museum or in a gallery, but it's a type of art they're able to sell on the weekend. There are different ways that we can make money to support ourselves. And there are some people who are going to have to work at something that has nothing related to their art. I do like, though, to try to get people to, if they're going to have to earn money a different way, that it aligns somewhat with what they're doing. If they're an actress, maybe they can give acting classes, or they could do some community theater and make connections that way. They wouldn't really get paid for that. But I try to keep it close to what they're doing, but there's nothing wrong with it. As long as you stay in maybe and you work hard and you believe in your creative life, I truly believe that you're going to get there. But starving and not taking good care of your health and not living a balanced life, I think that's a really difficult way to go. I think it's better to have a balanced life, but I believe in the dream. I'm a big bull. So I say pursue your dream, stay with it, but still, maintain a life that works for you, that you can be healthy and be strong. So when success does come, you're ready for it. Yeah. And that's the advice. It might not be the advice that everyone wants to hear, but I find it works. And I've actually worked with people that have gone from doing the fairs on the weekends to actually selling art in a gallery. And I have another client that did give acting classes, and she now has she's done a couple of films right now. So the creative life's not always the easiest life, but if we stay in maybe and we hold the hope and possibility, but we do need to take care of ourselves. And I find that making money and paying for the basics is important.
Right. Well, how do you deal with maybe, you guys, you've been in business, and I think sometimes, in business, it's very cutthroat. is very, you get a reputation, people, they will stab you in the back, blah, 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 all of that stuff. How do you remain positive and in the maybe zone in that environment? I mean, it's very competitive, it's very, somebody will smile at you, but it's not a real smile. It's fake. How do you deal with that? I think it's hard for a lot of people.
Right. Well, the one thing is, what I love about maybe is you don't have to be a positive thinker. Because if sometimes, I love when people, when you have a problem, they come up to you and say, just stay positive about it. Everything will be fine. But something, if you're afraid of uncertainty, if you're afraid of what's going to happen tomorrow, or if you're going through a tough time, sometimes positive thinking is too hard. And the more you try to stay positive, and when negative things start to happen, and then there's a battle between negative and positive, your whole mindset's going to get all confused, and you're not going to really have the strength to move on. So that's why I love maybe, because maybe is about possible thinking. So you go into a situation, let's say you have a business, and and you expect to get these 3 clients. And I don't know if it's a cutthroat example, but the client made you feel like they were going to give you the business, and you put some money in the marketing, and you put some money in presentations, and you counted on it, and you hired somebody based on the fact you thought you were going to bring this client in. And at the last minute, the client goes with somebody else. Now, if you're not a maybe thinker, you're going to be infuriated, and you're going to be angry, and you're going to get stuck, and you're going to carry that around, and it can make you sick. And more than even making you sick is horrendous, but also what it does, it starts limiting your view of things. Because moving forward, you're going to not trust the next client and the client after that. And it's going to change how you view things. But if you're a maybe thinker, you're going to be able to look at the situation and listen, it wasn't nice. It's very clear what the client did wasn't nice. So you have to acknowledge that. You could feel disappointment. You could feel anger. But if you choose to hold those things and those emotions have no place to go, they're going to start to taint your success. So with this idea of maybe you could say, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling disappointed. But maybe this client wasn't the right client for me. Or maybe it would have been great, but it didn't happen. But maybe there's another client that I'm going to get tomorrow. And maybe I shouldn't have spent so much on the marketing. Maybe next time I'm going to spend less money and not hire somebody and wait. And there's another way to do it. So what maybe does allows us to feel what we're going to feel, learn our lessons, but be open to what's going to happen next. And I think that's the thing that happens to people. They have these events in their lives that they don't like, and they shut down. And little did they know that they were so close to making it happen. So I just ask people to, take your lessons, but don't take them to a point that you shut down. And maybe teaches us that, maybe allows us. And listen, there are some people that have to close their doors. There are people that do file bankruptcy. But no matter what happens, if you have breath, you have maybe, and there's more hope, there's no possibilities. Learn your lessons, but hold the hope. And don't let every bad thing happen in your life define what's going to happen next.
I think the story of John and his business that was about to fail in 2008 is a very important story that I think should be told. Can you tell us, you visualize the front door?
What was so interesting about 2008, it was a time where people couldn't run away from uncertainty. The markets were falling. People didn't know, banks weren't lending. People couldn't get credit lines. A lot of people's clients weren't buying. So that was really a time where, actually that's where I started to share my maybe practice with people. At first, my maybe practice was just for me. It was my own private practice that was helping me deal with uncertainty. And I wasn't planning on sharing it with anybody. And actually, this fellow John you're talking about is one of the first people I actually shared it with publicly. What happened is that the 2008 crash happened, and he had this beautiful store in Manhattan where he would sell these beautiful artisan lamps and this vintage furniture. But after the crash, his clients basically disappeared. And he was behind many months in rent. He had not paid his own personal rent. And he was sitting in his store really not knowing what to do. So when I went to see him, at first I tried to help him, with my accounting degree and my business background. I tried to help him with, what maybe we could, I didn't use the word maybe actually. I was trying to just help him make a plan for something else. But no matter what I said, it didn't matter. He was stressed. He was worried. He was contemplating only the worst because he couldn't see a way out of it. And then I asked him, I said, okay, maybe I should introduce him to this idea of maybe. And actually, I shared with him the story, but I also did this visualization with him. And the two things he was thinking about was either, shutting the store down and going back to France, which he didn't want to do, or filing bankruptcy. So I asked him to envision the idea of going bankrupt as a door. And I asked him to put the door really close in front of his face. And I said, I asked, how does that make you feel? And he said, it makes me feel terrible. It makes me feel awful. It makes me feel panicked. And I said, well, pull away that door and now look at it far away and see all the space around it. How does that make you feel? And he said, well, it makes me feel more spacious. And I said, well, the space around that is the maybe. It's to let you see that when you hold your problem so close, it makes you think that's the only way. There's no other solution, and this problem is going to take me down. But when you pull that away and you try to visualize it, and you see that door that was so in front of your face, you pull it away, you see there's nothing around that door. And around that door is hope and possibility. And I also asked him to do it with the idea of going back to France. And again, he had the same experience. And he said to me, he goes, okay, I'm going to go home and I'm going to do this visualization some more, and we'll talk more the next day. And he went home and he did the visualization. And what he kept doing is he kept taking his problem and putting it so close to his face and visualize it as a door. And as he pulled it away, every time he saw the space around him, every time he saw the maybe, it reminded him that even though I don't know the answer, maybe there's another way. Maybe there aren't only two choices. Maybe there's something else I could do to save my business. And when he called me up the next day, he's like, you're not going to believe this, Allison, but I'm going with the maybe. And it was so amazing to me because the day before, he was ready to pack his bags. And just with this visualization, and just with this idea of maybe it could be different. And he didn't really have some solutions, but he started to think about, maybe I could close the store and have an internet business and just sell stuff online until the economy changes. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I could work things out with the landlord. So we went from this place of doom and gloom to hope and possibility. And what's so interesting about the story of John is today, he's one of my most successful clients. He actually decided to pack up and leave Manhattan. He negotiated with his landlord. He opened up his business in Brooklyn, but it wasn't a store. It was just an office. And he sells online now. And he is so successful. And he has a couple of showrooms. And he's starting his own furniture line. So it's amazing to see that this was a guy that was about to call it, that's it. I am done. I am leaving. I am filing bankruptcy with this one little thought of maybe took him from doom and gloom and allowed him to kind of like quiet his fear and open up to other possibilities. And again, it sounds so simple, but that's what we do. We're always projecting that we're done. It can't work out. Things can't get better. We forget that life has maybe. And just because we don't know the answer in the moment doesn't mean that the answer is not going to come.
All right, once again, we're here with Allison Carmen. She works as an author, life coach, business consultant, and blogger. She's the author of The Gift of Maybe, a book offering hope and possibility in the face of uncertainty. You can find her at AllisonCarmen.com. And guys, right before continuing this conversation, we would like to thank those who pledged to our Patreon page. You are really helpful to the show, and we are grateful for your help. In case you're wondering, guys, Patreon is a simple way for you to contribute to the network every single month and get super cool exclusive rewards in return. I promise you will love the perks. Our Patreon page is at FrederickBuy.com. That's Frederick with a C, buy.com, and click Patreon in the header. The money is used to cover our production costs and editing time. And again, you can contribute for as low as $1 a month. Isn't that great? FrederickBuy.com and click Patreon in the header. All right. In your book, the power of gratitude is a big thing because, to remain calm in uncertainty, it's not easy,
right.
But, it's doable. And you talk about gratitude in your book. Talk to us about the power of gratitude.
Well, what's so great about gratitude is that sometimes we feel like life's not working out. We have no ground. We have no place to stand. That story that things can't change, they can't be better. It's so overwhelming. And I love gratitude. It goes really well with maybe because gratitude gives us a place to stand. It allows us to look at our life and see what's working. And I know a lot of people talk about gratitude these days and certain people, I was never one to really think about it much, but it really was the a foundation for me to start looking what's working in my life right now. And sometimes you really have to go to the basics. I have my health. I have my family. I'm in this great relationship. I have this job I don't love, but it brings me money and allows me to continue on and keep exploring my passions. Sometimes you have to go really basic, but it gives you a place to stand in life, to say, okay, I have this, and there's your platform. I can be grateful for these things. And you could also, even look in a larger, perspective too. I live in this great country where I'm free, or whatever your beliefs are. But I believe a daily practice will give you ground. And because in life, sometimes we're so busy looking at what we don't have that it's hard for us to start. And a great analogy is, I think, sometimes you could walk into your kitchen and you could see dirty dishes in the sink. And you could say, oh, my kitchen is filthy, it's dirty. But if you open up all the cabinets in your kitchen, you'll find that most things in your kitchen are clean. And if we could see that in life, gratitude allows us to see that things are working. So once you see that, once you're able to embrace that, I think starting to find hope and possibility, at least you're standing somewhere. And I think most people listening to this podcast can find things in life that they are grateful for. It's a great practice. It allows us to become more present. It brings us more joy, and allows us to appreciate everything that's happening in our life.
When you talk about being grateful for the basic things, I understand, but sometimes I don't feel it. You know what I mean? I might sit down and say, yeah, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for, I don't need a tube to breathe. Okay, but does gratitude work even when you don't feel it? You know what I mean? It's kind of, you do it mechanically sometimes. Does that make sense?
But something, there are times where we're not going to feel things, right? There are times where we feel lousy, right? And nothing's bringing us up, but practice anyhow. It's just like anything else. It's like a meditation practice. Well, I meditate and I thought the whole time. Practice anyhow. Because there's going to be a moment where that practice is going to work. So even if you're saying, I'm breathing, so on, I'm having my day, so practice anyhow, because these practices eventually lead us to a better place. For instance, let's say you're having a bad day, right? And you use your maybe statements. And you're like, this is not working. You know something? We really don't even know that, because maybe it didn't work at 10 o'clock, but maybe at 2 o'clock, something happens and you do feel grateful. But it was that practice that reminded you of that. Or maybe something that has at 3 o'clock that reminds you, wow, life does have maybe. And then it ingrains in you a little bit more, until I think we do develop practices that they do work more often. So I say whether it works or not, do it anyhow, because I think eventually you will find your place with it, and it will help you, and it will give you hope and possibility.
Many people struggle with regret. And what kind of role can a mindset of maybe play with letting go of regret?
Well, it's really interesting that you bring that up, because I find that most people who come into my office, that's the biggest story that they tell.
Guilt and regret are
right. Guilt and regret are big. And the story of regret is, if I would have went into business with that guy, John, 5 years ago, I'd be a millionaire today. If I would have married that woman 3 years ago, my life would be great today. And the reason why the story of regret is so painful is because it's so clean. Because we know life in the moment has twists and turns. But the story of regret's a made-up story. Of course it looks beautiful because you never lived it out. And if you think about it, we have no idea. What I do is I call it a reverse maybe. We have no idea if being in business with John would have been a good thing. He might have screwed us over. We might have been at the wrong place at the wrong time. Something could have happened to us. We'll have no idea what that marriage would have been like to that person. All we know is here we are with the hope and possibility that maybe we could find our way today and from this day forth. So regret is just a reverse maybe. It's a made-up story. And what's also interesting about regret is that it holds us back, because we're so busy saying that we missed our opportunity, that things could never be the same again, that some people stop trying because they think that was the only opportunity they could have. So I say that regret is a false story that we're writing. And because we're here today, we have hope for tomorrow. And I think the maybe practice will really help people let go of the past, stop the projection of the future, and become very present, because the now is when it's happening. This moment is when we create our life. But we need tools to help us stay present and to stay hopeful that we will pursue the things that we want.
A lot of people are worried right now with the recent events of, the elections, and we talk about terrorism, and you never know where it's going to strike. And, and what about people who live in Syria, or, when you know there are maybe bombs, being, let go just, a meter from you or something. What would you tell these people? First of all, let's start with the election people. People are testing right now, especially in New York.
A lot of people are stressed and worried about the election, and the reason why they're stressed and worried is because they heard a lot of things over the last 2 years that scare them. There have been statements against minorities and civil liberties, and people are scared that they're not going to be okay. So I think what we need to do is we need to look at where we are in this moment. Based on what's happened in the past, in this moment, I think a lot of us feel that we need to act, that we need to make sure that civil liberties are protected. Maybe we need to join groups. Maybe we need to do protests. Or there are some people that are happy how the election went. But whatever happening is based on the past. We know in this moment we need to act. But a lot of people are worried right now because they think they know what's going to happen tomorrow. And what's interesting is we suffer because we think we know. And the truth is we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. It's a projection. It's a projection that, again, has no bottom. And it brings up such fear and worry. So in the moment, what we could say is, I need to act now. This is what I need to do based on what I've seen and based on what the moment tells me. But the future is unknown. And because it's unknown, it has hope and possibility. Maybe everything's going to be okay. Maybe I need to act. Maybe it'll be bad, but maybe it'll get good again. Maybe my thoughts aren't true. So again, uncertainty is our best friend, because within it lies hope and possibility that we can't even imagine today. So that's what I say to people when it comes to the election. And when it comes to terrorism, too, we don't know. And the point of terrorism is to make us fearful and afraid. And what we do is, again, we stop living our lives. We start doing what we need to do, what we want to do. And again, we don't know what's going to happen. But within not knowing is hope and possibility. And, what we do is we live out our worst nightmare, whether it's going to happen or not. That's what worry and fear does to us. So I say, why live out a day that hasn't happened yet? Let's stay present. And I think the more present we are, the better decisions we're going to make, the better life that we're going to have, and the more opportunity we're going to have, and the less we're going to suffer, because why suffer for a day that might never happen? So, we have to be, what I love about maybe too, it maybe says life has hardships, bad things can happen. But just because these things happen doesn't mean that we can't find our way after that, and we can't find our way through it.
Why live out a day that hasn't happened yet? I wrote that down. Okay, that's very good. I like that. Why do you think maybe it's so important to teach to children? And why do you think parents also need maybe as a tool?
Oh, well, what's interesting about children is that, even with the election, I saw that many parents were very free with their language. If so-and-so wins, things are going to be bad. We can't live here anymore. We have to be really careful. Children take us very literally. And there's a lot going on in the world. And we don't want to teach our children, oh, don't worry about it. Your life's always going to be great. And these bad things will never happen to you. Because when things happen, they're going to have no tools, right? But on the other hand, so you don't want to sell them that the bad things will never happen. But on the other hand, you don't want to tell them things are going to be bad and you should be worried and you shouldn't do this and that, because then they're never going to pursue anything in their life. And that's what's so great about Maybe. Maybe allows us to say, yes, there's global warming to our children. Yes, there's terrorism. Yes, there are problems. Yes, there are diseases. But just because these problems exist, it doesn't mean that life's not going to get better. And maybe teaches them that. Maybe your generation will figure out this whole global warming. Maybe your generation will figure out ways that the world can live in more peace. What it does allows our children to see the way the world is in the moment, but allows them to be possible thinkers. And we need possible thinkers. We don't need positive thinkers, because we don't need the battle of positive and negative. What we need possibilities. We need a new paradigm, new perspectives. So if you teach your child to see every situation that happens in their life, it's never game over, and allow them to embrace it. Maybe teach them to feel what they feel, but over time, teach them about hope and possibility, because I think those people who embrace maybe will be the leaders of tomorrow.
All right, we're going to wrap this up in a few minutes here. What do you hope people will get out of this book?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. I apologize.
No, it's all right. I said, what do you hope people will get out of this book?
What I hope they'll relieve themselves of suffering. I think we suffer so much in life because we're so afraid of uncertainty and we don't really enjoy the moment. So I hope people will read this book and recognize that a lot of their suffering is from the emotional dialogue that they have about the future, and that we're not doomed and we're not stuck, and life always changes. And in that change, good things can happen too. And this idea of maybe it sounds so simple, but it takes you from this little fearful place in your mind where you don't believe your life can be better, and takes you to this open space where you have more courage and you have more resilience to endure uncertainty and find the opportunity and the success and the love and the hope that you always dreamed of. I have seen miracles with this practice, and I just hope that the people listening will give maybe a try, because I really think that if you embrace it, it really can change your life.
Who were your influences? Which books or other authors or mentors influenced you?
Well, the biggest influence I've had in my life is my own suffering. So that I would say that through my own suffering, I've been able to find, I'm very sensitive, so I know when a thought takes me to hell, and I know what makes me feel better. So really, my own suffering has been my biggest teacher. But if someone was to ask me, what authors do you like to read? I love the philosopher Krishnamurti. He's wonderful. I think he's been a big influence for me. And yeah, I would say my own suffering and Krishnamurti, those would be the two things that I would tell people. But there's a lot of great authors out there, and there are a lot of people doing a lot of great work to teach people about more presence and resilience. And I also think that, meditation practice, before the idea of maybe I could not meditate. And my meditation practice has been a real blessing in my life, because it allows me to have more space between an event and my reaction. And I think that it happens naturally without a lot of effort. And I think that people should contemplate that, because a lot of times I think we're always reacting and we don't give enough space. And when there's space, we allow things to be different, and life really changes.
You work as a life coach. Talk to us a little bit about that. How do you work with people?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up so much. I apologize.
Oh, really? You work as a life coach?
Yes.
And how do you work with them? What's your approach?
Well, it's always a new approach. I always like to stay extremely open before I start working with somebody, because everybody has different issues. I mean, most people have a problem with uncertainty. So ultimately, that's something we're going to work on, but it depends. If I'm working with an artist, most likely they're not being recognized or their art's not selling. So sometimes we work on uncertainty, and then sometimes we work on ways to get their art out there. If I'm working with someone who has a horrible boss, we work on figuring out, the relationship with uncertainty, but really what do they want with their life, and how can they embrace forgiveness and kindness, and is it a place they should be? So it really depends. I think everybody has a different life circumstance. So I really try to be open. I like to give people exactly what they need. So I'm not interested in having a particular way or a particular theory. I think everybody needs something different. So I really try to understand the people that I'm working with and try to help them get to a place where they're living their most authentic life. And they're owning their own power. I think what we do is uncertainty steals our power when we can't handle it with our fear. So I love to help people empower themselves and own their own power so they can pursue the things that they want in their life. Right. And again, it's always everybody has a different story.
Right. All right. Her name is Allison Carmen. She works as an author, life coach, business consultant, and blogger. She's the author of The Gift of Maybe, a book offering hope and possibility in the face of uncertainty. You can find her at AllisonCarmen.com. And where can we buy your book, Allison?
My book is available at all major bookstores, Barnes & Noble. It's also online, Amazon.com, also Barnes & Noble. And I also have a lot of great writings on Psychology Today, HuffPost, Mind, Body, Green, and also my website at AllisonCarmen.com.
All right. Thank you very much, Allison. Thank you so much, Allison. I love these kinds of conversation. I'm going to practice the gift of maybe. And this is a shoot. This is real. I need the gift of maybe. Very powerful gift. And I just want to thank you, Allison, for this book. And guys, if you are an Amazon shopper, when you pick up her book from our website, frederickbaye.com, just through our links at frederickbaye.com, Amazon kicks back a few bucks to the show, and it helps cover production costs. No additional cost to you, no hidden fees, no nothing. So if you like this show, you can help by going over to frederickbaye.com and click on her page in the blog and click the link to her book. It is really that simple. That simple. Also, we're looking for new hosts, guys. We're looking for new hosts. So if you're a podcaster, wannabe podcaster, and you want to, try your hand in podcasting at a very cheap, affordable way, we're looking for positively oriented, with an entrepreneurial spirit kinds of people, to add to our network. So whether you're experienced or not, you can just go to frederickbaye.com. That's Frederick with a C, Baye like bye-bye.com, and just click become a host in the header. It's pretty cool, actually, and we can lead you by the hand, and hopefully you like, you're going to like this. If you have a message, if you're passionate about something, if you have something to share, and you have something deep within your heart, it's not just about money, just go to frederickbaye.com and click become a host in the header. Also, guys, the contest, yes, the contest ends December 3rd. We have many of you listen to the Frederick Baye Show on the Creative Magic Network, and we had Len Secretan on. We discussed his book, The Spark, The Flame, and the Torch. And what a book. If you're looking to be an inspiring leader, this is it. Not just, there's a big difference between being a boss, a manager, or an entrepreneur, to being an inspiring leader, and this is what the book explains so perfectly. It will also help you to become a better human being. Yes, you're a better human being, and live with passion instead of being a paycheck addict. So just go to frederickbaye.com and Frederick with a C, Baye like bye-bye.com, and enter your email in the pop-up at the top of your screen. The contest ends December 3rd. So go now, man, and just have fun. Doesn't cost you anything. Nothing. Doesn't cost you anything. Ain't that cool? Creative Magic Store is open, alive, and well. It's designed with meaning, meant to inspire you, tap into your intuition, and add a little bit of magic into your life. Just go to the Creative Magic Store in the header at frederickbaye.com. It's there. Christmas is right around the corner. We have recommended reading, DVDs, t-shirts, bags, mugs, bunch of cool stuff. And this podcast is free every time you download it on your favorite platform, wherever it is. We're on so many platforms right now, I don't even want to mention them. I mean, iTunes, Stitcher, obviously, but so please go over there, subscribe. It is listener supported. Tell a friend, leave a 5-star review. It really helps brother out. And with this, guys, I gotta take care of business. Got another interview in an hour and a half, actually. So stay safe, and don't forget, live with purpose, passion, fire, and love. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Frederick Baye Show. For more information, go to frederickbaye.com. That's Frederick with a C, Baye like bye-bye.com.